on, so I have big lips.
I mean, rare
Crazy stuff.
It is almost. That's pretty Welcome to the Sedona Soul Sisters Show, down-to-earth discussions on metaphysics, paranormal, and spiritual topics.
And the Sedona Soul Sisters are myself, Roslyn Reynolds, my business partner, Ivory Lanou, and Terry Ann Russell, our sweet mate and partner in soul sistering. So we would love to let you know that we have offices in Sedona, Arizona, and we see clients from all over the world, and we're pretty much here all the time.
I tell you, we're putting cots in here, bunk beds, little refrigerator. That's where you can find us. So today's topic is light beings you are likely to encounter on your spiritual journey. Ooh, that was a mouthful. And that's cut down from the original title. The original title was like 2-3 lines, and it was like. So if you have questions or comment, you can put them in the chat box, and we'll answer them live. And if it's later and you watch the replay, we can also get back to you then. You can always email us too, or email us, or call us up. Hey, I saw that show. Right after I saw that show, I was visited. The reason we're talking about this, not only have the three of us had a lot of experiences with councils, high councils, beings, astral beings, light beings coming in to see us, but so have a lot of our clients who are coming in, and we're seeing an increase in that. So whenever we see an increase in something with clients coming in, we know that's a topic we need to discuss. So where do we want to start with this, girls?
Well, I think we should start, as just an explorative, of thinking about the possibility that sometimes things that you experience as dreams, or you feel like you think you saw something, but then you kind of decide, no, that wasn't really what I saw. These are actually things that are really happening in the multiple dimensions of what I think of the multiple dimensions of time and space, which is really physics. So we have a lot of different time and energy and frequency fields that are running concurrently. And sometimes we kind of either these beings come through into our dimensional field, or, and if you're in a dream state, it's pretty easy to cross over and to experience these things. Sadly, I think most people think they're nuts. I think they're going crazy.
Who here has not ever thought they're going crazy? Because I don't know who that would be, You go far enough on your journey, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And that's how I came to you.
That's true.
Talk about that. I think that's fascinating. It was. How Terry Ann came to join us. I think the first thing I said, well, you're going to think I'm crazy, but this is what happened to me. And I explained that what happened, that I was meditating up in Airport Mesa, and I saw the portal, and I was directed to come and see Roz at Soul Sisters, and I was like, I'm not going. I'm pissed off today. You can't make me. I'm like, Sophia, you can't make me. Didn't you sit in the parking lot? I sat in the parking lot for an hour before, and it took me 2 weeks to make an appointment and come and see her.
And interestingly, my friends have always kind of teased me, because for somebody who's been a lifelong psychic, I mean, I'm pretty down to earth, oh, really? Are you sure? So, yeah, quite fascinating. I actually have been experiencing this with not just Terry Ann, but numerous people over the past couple of years. People coming from all over the country, some people coming from outside the country, who have been shown my face or given my name and told where I am. And they come into my office and they say, I think I'm going crazy. But the truth of the matter is that we're not stuck in this dimensional field. We think we are. We're also not precluded from being contacted by other beings. I've spent a lot of time in my life seeing all other different types of presences, energies, entities, described them, quite specifically when I was a kid. Fortunately, my mother was a pretty grounded person. She said, okay, if you don't like them, tell them to leave. But I think what's happening is so many people are experiencing this now. And in our culture, you do immediately think, oh, I must be cracking up. Something's wrong with me. I'm going crazy. Right. Or if you've already contacted your guidance and you've been communicating with them and you see them and you hear them, you accept this, but then to have to go tell somebody else.
Yes.
That's scary.
And it has increased when I came here too. So that part of it increased greatly, very quickly. So it was a little, upsetting to try to wrap your logistical mind around it. It was difficult.
Yeah.
And a lot of clients I have too are coming in now and saying the same exact thing that I said to you.
Yeah. When they say that, I always flash back to being in my 20s, and it was at the time of that harmonic convergence thing. That was a big time for me. All of a sudden, I woke up one night because I heard this pop noise, and this astral being floated through the wall from outside into my bedroom. It was oval shaped, and it had a black nucleus, and it was pink and iridescent, and it had a dark outline, and it hovered in the air a foot or two away from my face for about 45 minutes or so. And I was awake the whole time. And then it floated back through the wall. It happened every night for night after night. I'd wake up with a pop. And then there was these other creatures that look like giant fuzzy dice, only some of the legs were long. And one night, one of them, I opened my eyes and it was right on my pillow, and it reached out and stroked, and it felt like velvet, but I went, dove under the covers, and I didn't know what was going on. I was still working in radio then. I didn't even work in mental health yet, but maybe this is part of what led to it. Because then it was the bright, I'm telling you these because these are the things you could see. Yes. These are all astral beings that I was seeing at that time. And these things that look like they were the size of a tennis ball, and they were super bright, glowing green. And it looked like 1,000 of them were silently bouncing around in my living room. And I watched it for hours one night. It could have been one going so fast. Don't ask me. People say, what was it? I'm like, what did they want? I don't know. They just kept coming. This went on for about a year. And that made me go to a mental health place that I ended up being the head of later to say, I think I might be going crazy. And do you know, my angel sent me to a counselor who was believing in all of this stuff, and she knew exactly what was going on with me. And she's like, you're not crazy. You are having a spiritual awakening, and you are, instead of just seeing spirits and angels, now you're seeing beings from other dimensions. And it went on from there. But that's the big one for me where I really thought I was going crazy. Right. Later, as more things happened, I didn't think I was going crazy. Sometimes I wished I would just get it over with, but no, those things were really happening. So we talked about that too, Roz, as your frequency rises, you start seeing things maybe you wish you didn't see. That, I don't know if that happens to everybody, probably not, but some people. So you start seeing darker things.
Well, I think, in my case, from the time I was pretty young, I could see these low frequency beings. And, they're scary. I have people come in my office and say, oh my gosh, I think I'm going crazy, but I saw this entity, or I saw this creature, and they describe it to me. And I'm like, well, I know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people need to realize that, we're a highly educated group on this planet, but education does not provide you with everything. Education does not prepare you for these kind of experiences. In fact, I think it makes it more terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
And one really important thing to realize is that you have to detach a little bit from the emotional aspects of the fear, the whatever you think is going on, and really become pretty objective when you look at this and start to analyze and logically say, okay, I know I had this experience. I'm not going crazy. Let me go and explore this where I was recommended to go, where I was sent.
Yeah.
And I feel like people all over this planet right now are being sent to contact other people, to go to certain places. So this is really a powerful time.
It is.
And since we are experiencing, we're hearing from so many people that suddenly they are being approached by other beings. So I really feel like, I read and I hear sometimes the things.
Just getting into the juicy part too. I feel like I'm on a hot flash.
No.
I'm gonna have to be a Mormon woman.
I
Put
wish
my
I was
hair up
having
in
a
bun
hot
for these
flash.
shows.
All right, you can continue.
Okay.
So, sometimes people will say, oh, well, my eyes tricked me. It's not a trick. When these things, your eyes are not tricking you. You are seeing into a different dimensional field, or they are presenting themselves to you in this third dimension.
But you might want to try to refuse it because it's frightening. It's unknown. And so people will try every rationalization. Oh, it was the light. Oh, it was a car coming by.
Yes.
All these things. But it's not. And eventually something's going to happen that is so powerful you won't be able to deny it. I mean, that's just what happens eventually. Whether it's, wait before you even go to sleep at night, realizing there's a council of light standing around your bed, or whether there's a creature from another dimension, a being that has the same frequency as an angel, just that high frequency, or a being from another planet that has very high frequency that keeps coming to you. They may identify themselves. They may tell you what they want. They might just come to you and you don't even know for sure what you're getting from it. But you have to, I think that's why it's so important to learn about frequency and what it feels like when something's high frequency and what it feels like when it's low frequency. So if you're safe, you can relax more quickly when you realize what you're feeling is very high frequency.
Yes.
And it cannot be anything bad.
And I think when we tune in with our heart, and our solar plexus, our gut reaction to things, a lot of times if these are threatening events, if this is something where your frequency's gotten really low, and yes, this thing is approaching you that's doesn't have a good intention and is positive, you're going to know that. You're going to know that immediately.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're listening, and I had a couple of situations where people told me they were just doing something really mundane, like walking in their yard, and one lady was on the computer, and suddenly this presence appeared, and they were freaking out, of course, except then they realized that it felt good.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of thinking with the mind necessarily, the logical, like, oh, something's trying to hurt me.
Right.
Get into how you feel about these things, because frequency is about how we feel.
Yes.
And it's really important.
When it's a positive thing, people think this is hilarious, but I can't explain it. But if when they come to me, I very quickly usually go right to sleep. So there's something I've never seen before in my room, and it's communicating me in some way, and then I just go to sleep and wake up in the morning, and they're like, how can you go to sleep? Because I know I'm safe. Then there's been times when I lived in a specific house mostly I'm talking about, that I would wake up and I would instantly know I'm in danger. And it didn't feel good at all. And when I tuned into what's going on, I could feel it in my solar plexus. I could feel the frequency low, and I'd start blasting that thing with light and, calling in the angels and banishing it from my house and my property. But it is totally about how you feel. And at a gut level, like you might be startled, but if you're truly mortally afraid, tune into why.
Yeah. So very instinctual too. Yeah. So we know, like we've turned that all off throughout all these years, right?
Yeah.
But we have that animal instinct. When you have fear or you're in danger, you feel that in your body, and everybody feels that, whether they acknowledge it or not. You can feel it.
Agreed.
And good or bad. So as long as the mind is not involved, how that feels to you.
I think of it like, our logical, analytical mind, our conscious mind is busy with everything in this third dimension. And, we're working and we're living our lives and we're paying our bills and we're raising our children and we're doing all of these other things. But our subconscious mind, which is the seat of our intuition, which are everything that happens to us on an intuitive level, is coming in through this different entry of the subconscious mind. Our subconscious mind is very, very tuned in to a feeling of threat or a feeling of discomfort. So if you can kind of just remove your logical thinking process a little bit to the point of thinking to yourself, now wait a minute, just because I'm seeing this and it doesn't look familiar to me, doesn't mean that it has an intention of harm.
Right.
No, it doesn't.
And embrace it and say thank you. I'm so grateful that these beings come to me, and I'm so honored for the work that I do because of it.
I know, and I think a big part of it is like people will say, well, what does that mean? Because I was telling somebody about this. They said, have you ever seen beings? Yes. And I was telling them, they go, what do they want? I don't know. Sometimes they tell me. Sometimes they're just there. And I just trust that whatever it is I'm supposed to get, I'm receiving it, even if it's not on a conscious level, and just go with it.
See, now it took me a really long time to get to that, faith of I'm receiving what I need to be receiving because I was seeing these beings and entities and everything from the time I was little. The minute they showed up, I was going, what do you want? Get out. Because that was the first thing that hit me. And a lot of times they would never say anything, but I would feel what was going on. So I think that's a really crucial point, to just have the faith that you're being surrounded in love and protection. And, for years, I've always thought of myself as a very here and now kind of psychic. Like people come in for readings. It's like somebody turned on a video. This information is streaming in. I do say a prayer and affirmation first, so I know that my intention to tap into that is in the right place. But I didn't go with my readings, a lot of times, I never went out of this third dimensional life until probably, maybe about 15, 20 years ago, when all of a sudden I started thinking, whoa, who's that coming in? So we have to kind of accept the fact that we have to adjust our boundaries a little bit.
And sometimes the dreams are the best way to reach people because they may have some fear around seeing them or feeling them. So coming to us in dreams, if you're having repetitive dreams of ships or beings, right? Pay attention to what those dreams are. Write them down. Try to remember them in the morning and write them down.
You think my dream of when I was a baby javelina being chased by a troll, that I might have been on a planet where I was a baby javelina? That's a real dream. My dreams are wild. If my daughter's watching this, I know you're laughing because she thinks it's hilarious.
I go back and I look through my dreams, and because some of them are like freaky.
Oh yeah. Now I'm going to have to go back through my decades of dream logs and see if there's anywhere it probably was a being and I didn't even realize it then. So I've been keeping those for decades.
Wow.
I think it's really helpful to keep a little journal or a paper and pencil next to where you sleep, because I did not for many years. I do more so now, but I didn't remember what I dreamt when I would wake up. So if I could stimulate myself just to kind of take a minute, tap into it, sometimes kind of the details would come through.
Mm-hmm.
But I never remembered those dreams. And the other thing that was interesting was I always dreamed in black and white.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Everything was black and white, like I was
Weird.
watching an old movie.
That's so interesting.
Isn't it? So, I mean, I thought that was kind of weird.
I've heard of one other person say that. So,
And that all changed during this time where I removed my goggles. I opened my mind to the fact that these beings had been coming in all my life, but I pigeonholed everybody. Okay, that's an angel. Okay, that's a master came to tell me something that I'm doing not right, etc., etc. So I think it's us that needs the adjustment.
yeah, usually, like, look at all the, a lot of the things that were happening when I lived in that house that had the demonic presence in it, that dark vortex in it. There were creatures, there were beings that came through in that house to help me that I never saw before or since. And some were ascended masters, some were archangels, some were things I don't even know what that was, but they all were of the light. So as we need it, they
That's a
come in.
really good
Oh,
point.
wonderful. Yeah.
Really good point. Is to realize that, we arrive here with an entourage. We arrive here with angels, guides, and other protectors who come with us. And when you get into the crunch, they come in.
Yeah.
So.
And we're not alone. I mean, I remember
No.
Roz and I talked about it today, questioning when I was little, like, but we can't be the only ones in this big universe.
Yeah,
The
it doesn't
only
make any
ones.
sense.
No.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So.
There's a quote about that they don't, what's more terrifying. I'm not sure which is more terrifying, that there's nobody on any other planets, or that there is. So I don't know, but this isn't even just about aliens. This isn't just aliens we're talking about. This is beings from other dimensions, astral beings. One that, and some of the things, like I remember coming in and telling Roz, after I was, the first place I lived here in Sedona, there was one day where I was on my way to work, broad daylight, and I saw this blue thing come out of this little dog park area just diagonally from my house. And I'm like, oh, it must be a bag with air in it and it's blowing. No. As it got closer, it was like this long, bright blue, and it was moving like this across the road. And it got in front of my car and just poof, disappeared. So these things can happen when you least expect it. And it's, I think the hard thing is just to wrap your mind around it and go, oh my gosh, that was an astral being here in broad daylight, on my way to work one day. You just never know when these things are going to come to you, or when you're just going to happen to see them. I don't think that thing was coming to me. I think that I saw it, nobody else did. That's all.
So if you are experiencing this, definitely look us up, because we do have experience with it. And
Clearly.
you are not alone. There are many more people out there like you.
Yes, and if you're afraid to approach us, this is why we share some of our story with you, so you understand we've all been in that position where you had to step out, lead a leap of faith, step out on that limb and just trust somebody, trust somebody with what's going on with you, so we can help you and move forward with it, so you're not afraid or feeling crazy, because you're not.
Yeah.
I do think that people right now, a lot of the people that I've seen in the last few years who have been guided, or directed, or shown a specific person to go to, or that name has been spoken to them, that's connecting you with the person who is meant to connect with you. And there is an energetic sort of a click that happens. So be open to that too.
Yeah.
Because I feel like when we really have faith and we really tune into our guidance, we are, and I say this all the time, like, okay, I don't know what to do now, show me. And we are shown.
Mhm.
We are directed
Yeah.
by these beings that have been with us for, millennia, and they're caretaking us.
And sometimes it's not just so black and white, they may come in, show you something or say something to you, or in your dreams, and it's not going to be just go see Roz at the Sedona Soul Sisters. I had messages before that said,
didn't you have like numbers?
yeah,
or something?
6781 go, and 6781 is on the pole out there, but
Right
I didn't
outside
get
of the
it.
building we're in.
Yes, outside of the building.
And I was like,
She was sent this code.
I was like, what does that mean? So it may not be so black and white.
No.
Sometimes it's very metaphoric. Sometimes it's very numbers, sequences,
Or a name or a word of something you just don't know what it is yet. And it's just like getting a psychic reading. You might get some information in your psychic reading that doesn't make sense till some time has gone by, and then suddenly it makes sense. Same thing with these messages that you get and clues and signs, and they're just not often cut and dried like you got with that one.
Mm-hmm.
I think another thing to just kind of keep in mind is that at times, the other thing that I've had a lot of people tell me, and I too have experienced this, is there is the symbols in sacred geometry. So if you have never heard of that, these are symbols and letters and shapes from a language, a very, very, very old language. And sometimes you receive it in that format. Like I've had those things come in, and I'm thinking, okay,
What is that?
show me what it is, because I don't know what you're trying to tell me here.
Mm-hmm.
So usually when we ask, we do receive some way to correlate that information that's been sent. And I think another important thing to realize, and I've already touched on this, if you're in a situation where you feel that something low frequency or something threatening is around you, you can't really feel what that is, always ask for protection, and always express that you don't consent.
Mm-hmm.
You don't consent to that.
Right. Go away. That's what
and that brings up another thing too, like when we're talking about the beings, high level beings you see, including angelic. So different ways that you might see angels, or the fact that they're there, especially if you are afraid, is a big white swath, like an arc of a rainbow of white across the room, or a huge white flash. That's two of the main ones when they're specifically giving you angelic protection because you need it. So, just look for that. And if you're seeing that and wondering what that is, Roz and I were talking about how you can see it with your eyes closed, the bright light, but you open your eyes and it's dark. So it's that's what that is.
Also, one thing that I think is important to realize too is like if you experience a situation where you feel like you're seeing flashes, like light, flash,
like a
really
bright,
or like a bright colored thing blowing up around you or something. That's how angels come through the dimensional wall. If I'm working with a client, or recently I was doing an online Skype, and the client was saying, "Oh, I'm seeing all of this stuff exploding around you," and I was like, "Well, those are our angels coming in to facilitate this conversation."
And that can be, again, in daylight. There's been times, yes, I see that a lot at night, and I have for a long time. But recently, I was telling Ross, I'll be like watching TV or playing on my little game or something, and flash! It's like broad daylight. It's like right next to my face. Flash! Yeah. So they come in with a bang.
Well, they want to get our attention.
Yes. It's working. It's working. Can't possibly miss it. But there's all kinds of things that can happen. So many we can't even We can't even name them all. But, you know, I don't want to say, we were initially going to talk about this as far as light workers expecting this, but whether you consider yourself a light worker or not, as you move along your spiritual journey, your frequency goes up, your ability to see into other dimensions, your ability to be sensitive to things trying to communicate with you, to hear, all of that is just naturally increases. So it's a good thing. It just, the more you're experiencing, I think, is positive feedback for you that you're doing a really good job raising your frequency.
Yeah. And keeping it there.
Yeah. And that's not easy. That is not easy. Is there a question?
You can wrap it up anytime, ladies.
Oh, well, we can do that.
It was great. Thanks for joining us today on the Soul Sisters Show. If you would like any additional information or you have questions, go to our website, sedonasoulsisters.com. In addition to listing the things that we can help you with, we have a blog on there. So we have some information, just general information that might provide you some insights to help you. And again, here we are in Sedona all the time in our office.
Here we are.
So
tune in next week. Our topic will be grounding and protection. That's so important. Grounding and balancing. Really important with all of the fear that people are being bombarded with on a worldwide basis right now. So tune in to find out how to find a little bit of calm in the storm within yourself. And in the meantime, we hope you have an enlightening week.
And have fun.